Rainbow Reflections, Book 2, Put Out the Fire. Chapter 9, Try to Catch a Dream. October arrived to the school with cool winds, a nice change from the summer humidity. The second years were kept busy writing essays on magic or doing studies of plants when they weren't in class. Ren found herself extra busy with the martial arts club added to her schedule. She had to plan for each session, as well as rehearse the classes herself to make sure she was instructing well. She often practiced her teaching skills with Sorella, who always seemed to be training when she wasn't in class. The two girls would sometimes get sidetracked and talk or play games, but Ren didn't mind, enjoying the time she spent with Sorella. Ren also did daily meditations with Zin, trying to help them connect with their magic. But after their blow-up in magic channeling a few weeks prior, they hadn't been able to do anything else with their magic. The meditation sessions didn't seem to be helping, but Ren did her best, incorporating instrumental music or art to relax Zin further. Being so busy only 1 month into the second year, Ren had been distracted from searching for information on where she had come from. Of course, her mind would stray to the same question, "Am I a spirit?" over and over, but she never had the time to ponder it any further. Yet with the Day of Spirits nearing, Ren made a mental note to do some research before the day arrived. The holiday was not only a celebration of spirits, but the day where spirits came out of hiding all over the world and made themselves known to humans. Ren still wasn't sure why this was, but she was more concerned about whether she'd be able to make contact with a spirit on the day itself. If I can contact a spirit, maybe they can tell me if I am a spirit? Maybe they know some way to test if I'm a spirit? But I have to find more information so I know what to ask, and I need to learn how to find a spirit in the first place. I wonder if I have a spirit guide that can help. But as the Day of Spirits got ever closer, Ren was finding that she was still buried in homework, doing martial arts sessions with both the club and Sorella, and attempting meditation or art sessions with Zin. October 10th arrived, the Sunday before the Day of Spirits, and the only free day Ren typically had. Keeping her own meditation ritual short that morning, she only did 30 minutes of art with Zin after breakfast. She then hurried off to the library alone, desperate to search for books on spiritual matters. The library smelled of dust and books as she stepped inside the red-painted space. There were tall shelves all around the vast room, the aisles narrow. To the right were several tables crammed between bookshelves where students would often be seen studying. A few students sat there now, Ren noticing C3 at once. None of them spoke, each busy reading or scrawling out essays. To the far right was a table full of tarot cards, crystals, and candles. Ren's heart ached as she thought of Aster, who typically stood by the desk to wait for students to ask for his help. Instead, Wave sat there, his red hair pulled back in a tail and his green eyes sharp as he glanced up at her entrance. She smiled briefly at him in greeting before dashing down the nearest aisle, wishing that Aster was there instead. I wonder if Dad ever heard anything. Surely he would have by now. Or Fern. Aster and Fern are close friends, so maybe she heard something of him. I wish he'd come back. Maybe he'd even be able to help me figure out if I'm a spirit. Ren walked along the aisles for several minutes, scanning the labels on the shelves. She passed books on plants, wands, tarot, philosophy, business, history, fiction. Where are the spirits? She wondered, frowning as she reached the far left side of the library. Not seeing anything on the last shelf, Ren rolled around and skipped back the way she'd come. Maybe the spirit books were located on the right side, closer to the studying students. She bit her bottom lip as she thought of how she'd likely interrupt them if she was searching for books literally at their backs. I might have to come back during lunch when everyone's in the eating hall. She skipped down another aisle, this one including the topics of potions and cooking. Ren was so intent on her search that she nearly walked into someone as she scanned the shelves. She stopped herself from trotting on their foot just in time, taking a few steps back and apologizing quickly. Wave smiled warmly down at her, not seeming the least bit alarmed. Hello, Ren, he said. Oh, hi, Wave, she replied brightly. Do you need help looking for anything? Wave inquired. I can't tell him about being a spirit. He's a normal person. He wouldn't understand. He might even freak out or hate me. I could ask for the spirit section for class, perhaps, but we don't cover spirits until next year, I think. But he wouldn't know that, would he? Ren? Wave pressed, his smile faltering. I'm fine, she said hastily. but thank you for offering. Wave nodded, remaining where he stood for another moment. Then he turned and walked back up the aisle, turning the corner and vanishing from sight. Ren let out a small sigh. I can find the spirit section on my own. I don't need help. But what if he sees me looking? What if he suspects I'm a spirit? What if word gets out to the other students? Even Sorella doesn't know anything. I'm sure most people would be fine if they found out, considering they're fine with Fern being a spirit, but... She shook her head roughly several times. I'm too paranoid. Being a spirit wouldn't turn everyone against me. And searching the spirit section doesn't automatically mean I'm a spirit. However, as she continued walking through the shelves, Ren still couldn't help but feel that she shouldn't be searching. In the end, she exited the quiet library before she could find a single book on spirits, the hair prickling on the back of her neck. Ren shifted her position many times, pulled the soft sheets on and off, but couldn't sleep. She finally got up in the early morning hours and decided to water some of her plants, the ceiling lights turning on. Why can't I sleep? She wondered as she picked up one of the watering cans she had lying around her room. I usually don't have problems with that. In fact, the past few nights, Ren had been sleeping quite well. She had dreams of doing Tai Chi with Hyaktu, going on adventures with Zin, and spending time with Sorella. Her mind focused on Sorella for a moment, trying to recall what the two had been doing in her dreams. Martial arts, perhaps? All she could remember was that the two enjoyed the time they had together, and she smiled lightly at the thought. She poured some water on the plants covering her desk, which ranged from a purple bush to a yellow pod. The pod shivered as the water rained onto it, squelching in protest. Ren chuckled as she persisted to water the trees sitting on the ground beside the desk. Should I try to meditate? Oh, it's the Day of Spirits. That's why I can't sleep. She remembered her brief search of spiritual books the previous day, and disappointment flooded her excitement for a moment. I didn't find any information. Ren shook the despondency off and thought firmly, I can still ask questions. I can still find out more. I just have to find the spirit. Somehow. Or maybe I can meditate into the spirit realm again. Maybe I've got a spirit guide waiting there for me. An eager energy overtook her again. She set down the can, hoping she'd remember to water the remaining plants later. She then settled into a lotus position on the rug in the center of her room, facing the window like she did in the morning. The curtains were drawn over the tall windows, but she could still feel a faint breeze coming through, bringing in the scent of dewdrops. I wonder if there are lots of spirits outside. Too bad they can't come into the school, though I guess that's a good thing considering Kaokat might be out there somewhere. She closed her eyes and straightened her back, focusing on deep breathing for several minutes as she shoved thoughts of Kaokat from her mind. She wondered briefly if she'd fall asleep and hoped she would. Though classes were canceled for the Day of Spirits, she didn't want to mess up her sleep schedule. Several minutes passed, the only sound that of Ren's deep breathing. She didn't know how to enter the spirit realm by thought. It had happened by mistake the previous year, if that was where she had ended up. Let me into the spirit realm. Let me into the spirit realm, she thought, trying to imagine the same valley she had appeared in before. There were tall mushrooms, dancing trees. She could hear a distinct buzzing noise now, and she frowned. Hadn't she heard that the last time? Ren's eyes flew open as excitement overtook her. She grinned as she saw that she was no longer in her room, nor in the valley she had tried to imagine. A heavy fog surrounded Ren, yellowish in color and concealing the environment. She glanced around, but not even a single bush could be seen through the murky mist. Wondering if it was humid, she couldn't feel or smell anything. She looked up, frowning as she could barely make out what appeared to be hanging vines. She was tempted to pull on one, but thought better of it, not wanting to break her meditative state. As she had the thought, the world seemed to flash around her. She could have sworn she saw the plants and purple walls of her room. Ren took a deep breath, trying to focus instead on the fog. While the sight of her room dimmed, the hazy land did not return to full focus. Indeed, everything turned more grayscale and shadowy. She couldn't tell if the fog was warm or cold, if she was sitting on grass or stone. She couldn't smell the dampness of the air, as if she wasn't really there. Of course I'm not really here, she thought mildly, and the world around her flashed again. Focus! The fog! The vines! Yet the place she had ended up was now so faint it might as well be night. Just as she thought all was lost, a figure came through the thick fog only inches away. Ren could barely make out the shapeless shadow in the darkness. "What are you?" she mumbled aloud, trying to peer closer at it. But the shadow soon matched the world around it as everything went black. Ren opened her eyes, surprised to find that the room was dark. The lights had turned off while she'd been in her meditation, but they lit up when she got to her feet and shook her head, feeling dazed. "That was so weird," she murmured, dismay overcoming her. "I wonder if that was a spirit, and I wonder where I was." Ren was tempted to sit down and meditate again, but an uneasy feeling sat in the pit of her stomach, the same feeling she had gotten when she had left the library the previous day. She tried to ignore it as she returned to her bed, though a shiver passed up her spine. "What if that was Kaokat? Maybe I should tell Dad. Whatever it was, it definitely didn't feel good." Ren sighed as she lay on her back again. She stared at the plants on her desk for a long moment until they turned into shadows when the lights turned off once more. Ren closed her eyes, not bothering to take her glasses off, as she slipped into a dreamless doze. A few hours later, Zin's usual wake-up call rang through the tower. Ren sighed in annoyance, still feeling quite tired as she sat up in bed. She rubbed at her eyes but hit her glasses instead, forgetting that she had kept them on as she slept. Sighing again, she pulled them off and searched for a rag to get the smudges off. Since she had already done a meditation, she figured that could count as her daily ritual. She therefore watered the remaining plants around her room, having to go to the bathroom on the second floor for more water several times. Once she was done with the vegetation, she got dressed into a white-collared shirt and black dress pants. She topped it off with a blue robe covered in moon patterns, which she only wore on special occasions. The robe slanted to her right side, which contrasted with her hair parted to the left. She tied her hair in a tail, something she rarely did. Finally, she grabbed a crystal moon necklace from one of her drawers to complete her outfit. Ren went down to the first floor to see Hyaktu standing in the middle of the family room, dressed in a purple robe with swirls patterned across it. He had his hands on either side of him, palms facing down, as if he was about to start a Tai Chi form. But Ren could see he was practicing Qigong, as he moved his head slowly to look over one shoulder and then the next. When he had finished the exercise, he smiled over at her. "Happy Day of the Spirits," he said. "Right back at you," she replied, though her smile wasn't as broad. "Is something wrong?" Hyaktu asked. She shifted uneasily and explained what had happened in her meditation. Hyaktu frowned as he continued his Qigong, crouching down and scooping his hands together. Then he stood slowly, turning his hands up above his head as he stood on his toes. He released the stretch before repeating the action, clearly in deep thought the whole time. Ren waited quietly until he finally spoke. "It's a bit odd, but I don't know what to make of it otherwise," Hyaktu admitted. "The spirit didn't do anything?" "No." Then I'm not sure. If you end up in the place again, be it dream or meditation, on purpose or by mistake, watch your step." "Okay," Ren murmured in disappointment, wishing her father had more input to offer. "Then again, it's not like I was in that place for long." She forced the meditation from her mind and asked cheerfully, "So what are we doing today? The usual walk-in meditation and games?" Before Hyaktu could respond, a loud voice sounded behind her. "Don't you get bored doing the same thing?" Ren turned to see Sarala standing on the bottom step of the stairs, one hand on her hip. She looked very plain when compared to Ren and her father, dressed in the usual crop top and pants. "No, not really," Ren replied. "But you do the same thing every holiday," Sarala grumbled. "Not every holiday," Ren protested. "We don't celebrate the smaller holidays, at least not as much as the big ones. We only hold brief meditations for those." "Whatever," Sarala said. "Well, it's family tradition, I suppose," Ren replied with a small shrug. "We hold a meditation because it's what I like to do, we play games because that's what Zin enjoys, and we go on walks because that's what Dad always does." "That's boring," Sarala sighed. "You don't have to join us," Hyaktu pointed out, now bouncing up and down the balls of his feet. Sarala's gaze darkened. "I won't," she muttered after a moment. "It's not like I'm a part of this family anyway." "I didn't mean it in that sense," Hyaktu said hastily, frowning as he planted his feet firmly on the ground again. I meant we won't force you to partake in our traditions if they aren't for you. Sorella huffed and tossed her hair over her shoulder. She walked towards the door without comment, Ren reaching out a hand as if to stop her. But she had no idea what to say to the tall girl, and Sorella was soon exiting the tower, the door closing behind her. Ren let out a soft sigh. Why did she have to be like that? She murmured. Hyaktu shrugged in response. She's uncomfortable with our traditions, and she feels awkward if she joins in, especially as she doesn't see herself as a part of this family. But she is a part of our family, Ren objected. Isn't she? Not in her eyes, and it's up to her if she is or not. I'm open to her joining, but she's not an official member of the family until she chooses to be so for herself. Ren sighed. Then a thought suddenly entered her head. What if she made a new tradition with us for the holidays? She could feel more involved that way. Hyaktu smiled. That's an excellent idea. Great, I'll see if she has anything in mind, Ren said, running for the door. I'll be back. She scampered through the Tai Chi studio and across the stony courtyard until she slid to a halt outside the eating hall. She opened the door and entered to an array of aromas, glad to see the line wasn't too long. Sorella was standing near the back. Ren hurried over. Hey, Sorella. What do you want? Sorella grumbled. Oh, breakfast, Ren said lightly, a bit put off by Sorella's irritated response. If you're going to try to convince me to join you for the stupid holiday, Sorella said in a warning tone. No, of course not, Ren replied, her heart sinking as she pushed her glasses up her nose. You really don't want anything to do with it, do you? Oh, Sorella. Good, Sorella continued, grabbing a clean tray as they moved closer to the counter. Because I definitely don't care about holidays or traditions or spirits. Ren fidgeted uneasily, doing her best to keep her face happy or at least neutral. She didn't know what to say, though, and merely reached for a tray as well. If I'm a spirit, are you going to hate me when you find out? But you don't have a problem with Fern. You even seem to admire her. They moved along the line, Ren only grabbing some peanut spread toast, not feeling particularly hungry. Sorella, meanwhile, piled tofu scramble, toast, and bean balls onto her tray. The two girls then grabbed some almond blend. Ren took the vanilla flavor while Sorella got chocolate, before heading outside wordlessly. Ren led the way to the bench beneath the willow tree. They sat down quietly, focusing on their food. Ren picked at her bread slowly, wondering how to bring up the tradition idea with Sorella. No matter how I word it, she's going to be uncomfortable joining in. She doesn't see herself as part of our family. She just wants to push away. But we need to stick together. So, what are you going to do today? Ren finally asked. Probably train, Sorella grunted. Ren frowned. Don't you ever get bored of that? No. I guess it's like your traditions are never boring for all of you, huh? Ren shifted a bit awkwardly. A brief silence followed, then Sorella asked, So how's your training going? Well, I've been more focused on Kung Fu, considering I mostly train with you, and all you practice is Kung Fu. Sorella nodded. The superior martial art. Ren raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? Sorella's golden eyes flashed playfully. We all know Tai Chi is too boring and slow. Kung Fu is therefore better. Ren snorted at that. I can think of 100 reasons why Tai Chi is better. You're just too blinded by your true love to see it. True love? Sorella scoffed. Yeah, you are kind of obsessed with Kung Fu, don't you think? Ren teased. Sorella snorted. Maybe a little, she admitted. I mean, you don't even practice Tai Chi outside of class. It's always Kung Fu. Ren placed her empty tray on the ground, finishing off the last bit of toast. She leaned back on the bench and stared up at the long branches of the willow. Leaves cascaded down, and she reached up to twirl them around her fingers. A smile formed on her lips and spread across her face as she stared up at the smooth leaves. After a moment, Sorella finished her food and set her tray off to the side as well. Ren glanced over at Sorella, her grin growing wider. What? Sorella mumbled. What? Ren asked, tilting her head in confusion. Why are you smiling at me like that? Sorella asked. Oh, I don't know. I didn't realize. I was just, well, enjoying the moment, I guess. Ren blundered over her words, her face feeling warm. I mean, if it's making you uncomfortable, I can, smile at the plants instead, or... I sound so stupid. Ren was about to smack her palm to her forehead, wondering why she always stumbled over her words. But Sorella caught her hand before she could do anything. The girls stared at each other for a long moment. Ren could see herself reflected in Sorella's golden eyes, and she wondered briefly if Sorella was reflected in her glasses too. Ren's heartbeat quickened and sweat slid down her brow, though she didn't know why she was suddenly feeling anxious. Then, Sorella leaned forward, her lips pressing against Ren's. Ren's eyes widened in surprise at the touch, and panic overtook her. What? Sorella was starting to break away from Ren. In a millisecond, Ren comprehended the girl would probably run away in embarrassment and never want to speak to her again. She couldn't let that happen. Ren grasped Sorella's hand and pulled her in closer, kissing her firmly in return and closing her eyes. Sorella's body relaxed ever so slightly as she realized that she wasn't being rejected. Ren smiled at the thought, trying to keep herself from laughing. So have you— What are you doing? Ren and Sorella broke apart, Ren's face as red as a tomato and her heart beating louder than a drum. She looked up to see Hyaktu halfway through a bush, staring at the girls. Sorella tensed beside Ren, as stiff as the bench they sat on. Dad, go away! Ren finally squealed, unable to take the silence any longer. He blinked, then mumbled, Next time a bit of warning would have been nice. Well, I'll go. See you later. Hyaktu then left as quickly as he came, stumbling through the bushes and into the courtyard. Ren watched him for a moment, then flicked her gaze to Sorella shyly. So, Sorella's face was tense and her jaw clenched. I'm sorry, she uttered. I don't know what came over me. Ren chuckled and leaned forward, reaching for Sorella's hand again. Don't be so silly. Sorella flicked her eyes briefly to Ren before looking away once more. So you're not mad? Why would I be mad? Ren snorted. Because we're friends. I think the best relationship starts as friendship, Ren said earnestly. No wonder you don't want to be part of our family if you want to be my partner instead. So you like me too? Ren leaned in closer until she was practically nose to nose with Sorella. Oh, Sorella, of course I do. Sorella smiled lightly. So we're... Official? Yes, Ren said firmly. And she kissed Sorella again, a warm tingling spreading through her. But the feeling was soon replaced with a chill running down her spine and pain jolting through her head. Ren broke apart from Sorella as if she had been shoved back, her head now hurting so much that all she could see was white. She screamed in pain, her cries cutting off Sorella's own yell of alarm. Ren grasped at her forehead, willing the agony to come to an end. She bit her bottom lip, tears rolling down her freckled cheeks as she writhed in pain. Then images flashed through her head, going so quickly they were difficult to make out. After what seemed like a month, the vision came to an end, the pain vanishing at once. But now she felt dizzy and a bit nauseous. Ren? She opened her eyes meekly to find that she was on the hard ground, several blades of grass brushing against her soft skin. Sorella and Hyaktu crouched above her, both of their faces plastered in concern. Are you okay? Hyaktu queried. Ren took a deep breath and closed her eyes again. I'm fine, she mumbled, though she still felt sick. Was it a vision? Sorella asked. I think so, she muttered. But I couldn't see anything. It just hurt a lot more than the ones from last year. I was hoping I'd be done with them. The other two were silent for a long moment, that Ren opened her eyes to make sure they were still there. Hyaktu was frowning deeply, Ren almost able to see the many thoughts flying through his head. Sorella's jaw was clenched tightly, sweat sliding down her tawny skin. Finally, Hyaktu queried, Were you able to make out even one vision? Or a feeling, a smell, anything at all? All I felt was pain, Ren admitted, propping herself onto her elbows. And, hold on, there was something familiar, but what was it? She closed her eyes as she tried to imagine the rapid flow of images again. Then her eyes flew open. "Aster!" she declared. "I saw Aster!" Hyaktu appeared more worried than before. "Aster? Is he in danger?"
"I don't know,"
Ren admitted, biting her bottom lip.
"He was just there. I don't remember what he was doing."
She closed her eyes again, willing her memory to return.
"Was he telling me something? Showing me? I don't know. I don't remember. I'm sorry."
Hyaktu shook his head at once, placing his hand on her shoulder. "Don't be sorry. Visions are tricky things, and they cause lots of pain. The fact that you saw Aster is already more than enough." Ren nodded numbly. "I'm going to get Fern for you," Hyaktu went on. "She'll give you a potion to feel better. Stay here, okay?" Ren nodded again, laying her head down as exhaustion overtook her. She felt a hand on hers and smiled lightly at the touch, knowing it belonged to Sarala. But her grin didn't last long, as her thoughts drifted to the vision.
"I haven't had a vision since last school year, and that was a warning of Kaokat's plans to infiltrate the school with their spirit friends and crash Dad's ship. Is this another warning of their plans? Do they have Aster? Will I have the vision again so I might interpret it better? I kind of hope it doesn't happen again. These visions are so painful. But what if I'm having visions because I'm a spirit?"
Ren's eyes opened again, her heart picking up speed.
"It could be a sign that I am a spirit."
"Fern's almost here," Sarala murmured, squeezing Ren's hand tightly. "You'll be okay." Ren closed her eyes again.
"Will I be okay? Even if I am a spirit? What will that mean?"